Hello, my name is Brent Wetters. Since this is the first time I'm doing one of these videos, I figure I should probably introduce myself. Um, Presumably, if you are watching this, you are familiar with the Brentacol website. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the site features, show off some of the new redesigns that I've put in over the last couple of weeks, and show off a new feature that I'm really excited about, but that I am not quite ready to turn on. So I want to be able to show it to people, talk through it, and see what people think about it. But I'm not quite there as far as turning it on. And I don't want to break the site or cause lots of things that will end up causing problems. But that said, I will introduce myself, who I am, in case you've only found this website for looking up hills and so on, and have no idea who runs it. My name again is Brent Wetters. My day job, such as it is, I'm a musicologist, which generally just means that I teach music appreciation and music history to college students. I'm currently at both WPI and Clark, teaching as an adjunct. I also do musicology research and working on things like Mahler, Gustav Mahler, the 20th century, and um, uh, currently starting a project on Paul Celan and Franz Schubert's Winterreise, but that's all very much external to this project. The only thing that isn't is my research on Gustav Mahler has been also about his bicycling, and especially his bicycling uphill. So if I keep making more of these videos, maybe that'll come up as a topic at some point. But for now, I'm not necessarily planning on doing that. I will talk a little bit about some of my plans for the sort of Brentacol universe, as you might call it. But for now, this is really the point of this video, is just to introduce the website. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see what I've been working on. And odds are you've probably already seen this website redesign if you've found this video, but you never know. So I don't need to share computer sound. I'll also just say that I would never have thought to do one of these videos, except that I've been teaching all of my classes online because of the coronavirus, meaning that I'm a little less terrified of speaking in front of a camera than I would be otherwise. But okay, so here you can see the new website. Hopefully you can tell that it's a somewhat cleaner design than the previous one. The previous one was just inherited from my WordPress design. I'll also mention that I have gotten rid of that WordPress blog because, well, I kept forgetting to update it, or kept putting off updating it, and then it was so out of date that I couldn't even remember my password, couldn't really get into it. So I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to kill that blog and start a new one. So the first thing I'll show off is, if you go over to the menu thing here, you can find my new blog, which I have titled, rather than Brentacol, I've titled it Velo Musicology, because I intend to sort of bring in some of the musical things and some of the discussions of Mahler, which were already there on the old site. So you can see my posts that I put up about I guess a little over a month ago, announcing this change. And then I also transferred over some, but not all of the of my previous posts from the old website. So here's the main page again. So I've just shown you where the blog is, should you want that. The other thing you'll notice here is the most of the content on the front page is the same. So I've turned it into a kind of modular div card-based system. So everything is on the site is now in cards, which makes it nicely customizable. I can resize it. It should now look pretty good on mobile devices. That was a much needed change that was not part of the old website. This actually is starting to feel like it works as a mobile app, which is really necessary for some of the changes I'm putting in, or some of the new features. Again, I will get to that in a second. So you can see, this box over here just gives you a list of hills according to something or other. So for example, if I reload this, it's changed from steepest average gradient 4 kilometers to 2. So you get a different set of hills. I can sort of customize that and keep adding different lists as needed or as I desire. But that's one of those features. You can also have a search function. The search function is not as fully operational as I would like it. If you want to look for an individual hill, you can find it this way. but it's not a perfect search function. It's some of the limitations of using a sort of out of the box MySQL installation, but there it is. So, but yeah, so I've got an option to set up a hill spotlight. So there's, currently it's set to the Loibelpass, which is Gustav Mahler's hill. You'll also see that I've set up this page for becoming a patron. I don't know exactly how I feel about having Patreon here, but it would be lovely to get some amount of reimbursement for this page. And I've set up some benefits that I think are actually quite nice if you should decide to sign up. You obviously don't have to. The website will continue as it has for the last several years without joining in, but it would be nice to get a little bit of reimbursement for this. So if you do choose to contribute, that would be great. You will get my heartfelt thanks as well as the benefits that are outlined there. I will just sort of go through some of these. Let me load that page and show you what you would get. So you've got a few different levels. They're all, I tried to make them as cheap as possible. It said I tried to do less than 3 and Patreon told me not to, and I went with it. But if this seems like too much, we could always go down a bit. But if you join, the main benefit you get at the lowest tier is that you get to ask me to make hills. So let's say you have a hill in your backyard or down the street that is not currently cataloged. You could always write me and ask me, and I probably will do it. But if you sign up, it's just part of the benefit that you get 2 hills every year. I think I'll probably do one immediately and then one at the 1-year anniversary and so on. I haven't quite worked out those kinds of things. That's the first level. The second level, you get that the same basic idea. You just get 1 per month instead of two per year. So you get a lot more. So if you join at that level at $5 a month, at the end of the month, you've got 5 hills that you cataloged, and you have a nice gradient map for them that you didn't have previously, and it helps the database, but it also helps you because then you get the hills that are actually most important to you. Somewhat dependent on whether I can actually find a good map and so on. I can't always guarantee that I can make a good map for every single hill, but I'll do my best. $10 a month, you get you get this benefit here, the 1 hill per month, plus you get a custom route. And I think this is a rather nice one. This is one that I can see ride organizers or race organizers. If you want a new course and you want something designed that looks nice, that has a good feel, has a certain amount of climbing in it, that has a certain kind of character, I feel like I'm good at making those kinds of things. So you say, you're doing a charity ride and you want something that's 65 miles, has 10,000 feet of climbing in this area, and I'll do what I can. I'll try to figure it out and make it a nice route that stays on the good routes. If it's close enough, I will go ride it myself and make sure that it works, and so on. That would be all part of that. $20 a month. I'm just sort of throwing things in here, to not expecting anybody to join at this level, but should somebody want to, you would get both of the other 2. You would also get a hill video. One of the things I'm hoping to do is use my GoPro to make informative videos where you where I ride the hill, and I'm still working out some of the kinks of getting something that I'm happy with. I've been experimenting with this, and you would be able to see the hill. You would have the Garmin percent gradient information that would be displayed simultaneously, so you can kind of get a feel. Of course, Garmin's data is not ideal, and you're not going to get necessarily a perfectly accurate representation of what the gradient is when you're watching it, but it's another data point and another thing to be able to see and to get a feel for a hill before you do it. This kind of thing is most useful if you're looking to do something like Mount Washington. You want to know what it looks like to ride this climb, like how actually steep is it. And Mount Washington, there are actually great resources for already. You can go look at these. I'm sure there are people who have done it with a GoPro, but you can also see people who've done it in a car, which makes for a much quicker version of that. My intention is to speed up my videos a bit so you don't have to suffer through climbing these hills at my speed. You can actually get a better sense of what it's like, not necessarily a real-time sense, but a sense of what the gradients are like from a moment-to-moment basis. So so I will make one for a hill that you say, like, let's say, if you're in Providence, let's say you say, I'd really love to see one for Jenks, and you say, okay, so I would record Jenks, I would make the video, and so on. That's that level. These two sponsor levels, I just added these today. I will show this off in a second. I'm hoping to also integrate some sponsorship issues, so this is a kind of different kind of way of sponsoring the site, which will be as a sponsor. So you get some advertising on the site. I don't think the advertising will be terribly intrusive. I think it will actually be beneficial to the users. So I'm not intending to have like banner ads all over the place or anything like that. But when we get to it, I'll show you where the sponsorship levels will go in, where that would happen. Okay, so I think I see a typo in that link there, but that's okay. So if I go back now, so back here, so back to the main page. Yeah, I don't think I really probably have to explain all of the features of this, because if you're watching this video, you're probably familiar with this. I'm not guessing that this is a video that's going to capture new users of the site, but you never know. So I will pick a climb. Let's see. Climb I've been using for testing. There's no particular reason to pick anything. I'm just going to pick one of my favorites, which is a hill from my childhood home of Traverse City, Michigan. This is Wayne Hill. So if anybody's been to Traverse City, you know that as you go through town, it's not a huge hill, but it kind of towering above the city is a rather small subdivision, but there's a nice hill that goes up to the top. And as you see, you search for Wayne, you get these two versions. You have the alternate and the main version. In a way, the main version should be the alternate, because it features a turn off of the main road. But when cyclists do it, the way to do it is by taking a right turn instead of going up the most direct way to the top, because you get a steeper section that way. So when I click on it, you can see here's the website. Here's what it looks like for an individual page. So you get the information. If there is information about, which is something I can add, if there's information about summits or smaller sections that I've cataloged for an individual hill, that will be displayed here. So in this case, Wayne Hill is one of two different approaches. The other one is the other one you saw in that video, in that search, is Wayne Hill alternate. So you can see them, you can compare them. So there's, so we've got that both options. So you can, and then you can, as you scroll down, you can see the ride with GPS map. This is where I mapped this out. So you start about here, and you can see why I said that this is the alternate version. This is probably, if you take Wayne Street all the way to the top, this is where you go. If you take a right on Innichee Road, that's where you get the one that I'm calling the main version. You sort of take this right-hand turn, and you end up at the top. This section right through here on this particular hill is really nasty, and that's why you should do it this way, because it's the harder way to get up it. And Brentacol, the rating system here, which I'm not going to get into in this one, agrees it gives it a slightly harder rating going this way, even though the average gradient is in fact somewhat lower this way, because you add this little section of downhill right there. The other thing I will note, it's nothing that I had anything to do with, but one of the nice features of Ride with GPS is, assuming you're in the right setup, in most places, not all, and not all types of hills, but in this case, I'm quite sure it will work. Right here, you'll see this little person here. You can get Google Street View quite easily just by reaching in, so we can look at this turn, so we can look and see. So as you come up here, you can see that if you were doing this hill, you would get, if you got to this point, back up. So you're coming up here. The hill looks like you should go this way, right? This is should be the main way, but in fact, taking this turn gives you a quite a bit harder hill, especially as you get here. And this feature of having Google Street View really does give you a very good sense of what the hill looks like and what it's like to climb it. And this is right here is where it gets really steep. and then it levels off just a little bit before you crest at the top. And that's the top of the hill. So then you would usually go back down the main way. So that's what the hills look like. And here you have nearby hills. Still working on this bug. It's been there forever. So if you use this site, you probably have noticed this. If things are under a kilometer, it's going to, for some reason, the function I'm using for searching spits out 0 if it's below a certain amount. And so anything very close by is going to say 0, even though it's actually not, of course. Wayne Hill alternate is 0 kilometers because it's the same starting point. But this one is just nearby. And you'll see there are some tags on hills. The check mark just means it's something I've done. I have not checked off every single one that I have in fact done, but that's it's a tag that I can apply, and I have not always been good about applying them. Another tag that you can use is the this is the annoying tag. In this case, M72 is a rather annoying hill because it's a lot of traffic. It's a fairly nice hill from a profile standpoint, but it's not a particularly fun one to ride your bike on. And then a heart, probably self-explanatory, means it's one that I like particularly. So, and if you click on these, you can then see other hills that match those tags. So, for example, these are all of the hills that I've marked as with the heart tag. And so some of the other tags that you'll find are dead end. So if it's a dead end street, Wayne Hill probably should have been tagged as dead end, but it does sort of loop at the top, so I guess you can get around that one. Something that's particularly difficult gets the skull and crossbones. Let's see what, and I'm not, there's no objective way that I'm applying this one. This is just hills that are hard for me or that I find rather difficult. Do not enter means that you're not really supposed to ride them, but in some cases you can do it. Mount Washington, you'll see, is on here. So every day of the year except for the race, it's do not enter for bikes, but of course you can also pay the entry fee and do Mount Washington as a race, and you get to do it. And I still catalog a lot of these hills, even if they are not technically open for riding. So most cases, I will also add a note saying why they get that kind of mark. So for example, Timberley, this is a access road to a old ski area in Traverse City, sort of near Wayne Hill, not too near. This one, it's there. There's not really any sign saying you shouldn't go there, but you will probably get threatened by the property owner if you go up there. So best to not do it. I've not done this hill, unfortunately. My friend has, but I haven't. Okay, so back to the main page. And pretty much anytime you see something in a list form, so if I say, this is so I'll just point this one out. So find similar hills is always an option on any of the hills. It gives you what looks like a fairly similar hill based on it's the average gradient, or it's more about the length and the Brentacol score, so the overall toughness of the hill, which often works out to be similar profiles, but not always. So sometimes it'll have a similar difficulty, even if it's a rather different hill, which is partly why I like this this comparison, because it shows things that you might not otherwise expect, or shows hills that are similar for reasons other than just being similar average grading, because that's something you can easily find without the help of this tool. So and so if I search this one's going to pull up a lot because it's not a terribly unique kind of profile. If you looked up, say, over here in the steepest average gradient, the Kaya Monroy hill, that one is not going to find anything similar because it is a hill that has no equals. So we put it that way. But so so we can compare Wayne Hill, and a little bit of a problem here is that there are too many to actually be able to use this next function. But I'll just go to the next page. So let's say we look at Wayne Hill, and let's say we want to actually compare, like how does it stack up against that other one? Obviously, we can look at the stats. That's one way of seeing how it compares. But if you want to see that visually, there's a nice tool which is not particularly advertised on the site. It's something that you have to get to from this particular method. And if you're looking at this on the mobile, all of this doesn't show up because this function doesn't really work very well on the mobile version. But in any case, so let's compare these two hills, the Wayne Hill and the Wayne Hill alternate. I check them and then I hit compare. And then I get this nice little box here that has Wayne Hill and Wayne Hill alternate. And so you have them color coded. So you have the blue and the yellow. And so you can see Wayne Hill alternate is slightly steeper. It gets to a slightly higher point, or obviously this discrepancy of the overall elevation gain is got to be wrong because they both should end at the top, and so this probably continues just a little bit beyond where I drew the line, but it's close enough for me anyway. And then it also draws a reference grade depending on what you're looking at. If you're looking at something between 0 and 10%, it's going to give you a 5% reference grade. So what a perfectly straight 5% hill would look like. If you're above 10, it's going to give you a 10% reference grade. And I don't have it set to do 20% reference grade because there aren't that many hills that average more than 20. And then if you wanted to add another hill, this is kind of an annoying dropdown because it gives you every single hill that's in the database. It is organized first by location and then by alphabetical. So here are all the Rhode Island hills. And let's say I wanted to see how does, say, one of the harder hills in Rhode Island, let's look for Ipswich. How does that stack up? I can add this into the mix. And as you can see, it's going to throw in a 10% reference grade. Ipswich, obviously, much, much steeper. So, and it gains maybe half the elevation, but it doesn't go on anywhere near as long. So it's shorter. You can see its Brentacol rating is less, but not by a whole lot considering how much shorter it is. So that's that. Okay, so that's the main functionality of the site is that. Sorry, one more thing is the rides. So the other main thing that I really like on the side, it's something I've been putting more work into because mostly the things that were listed here were just a few things that I had wanted to make note of over the years, but it wasn't necessarily functional for anybody but me. Are some custom rides that I really like. And what I've decided to do is to make these rides, if they are on this page, I really want them to be vetted to the extent that I've ridden them, and that if somebody decided to look at one of these rides and do them, they would actually be able to download the data and do it. Some of these are not that kind of thing. Like this one, a few years ago, my friend Khalid was going to come out and we're going to do this big, huge ride. It never happened, and so I've never done this ride. It looks like a massive and horrible ride, or horrible depending on your definition. But I don't know if there are roads that are not actually passable in here. There could be. So, and it does say, here, there's a bit of a disclaimer saying that I have not actually done this. So you shouldn't put too much stock in doing this one. If you're adventurous and want to try something out that looks rather challenging, then of course this could be a fun adventure, but don't come back to me and say there are no these roads don't work, or tell me, but don't hold me personally responsible because I've warned you. So that's one of those. And so you can see here, so they have the location, distance in kilometers. I am going to put in an option to switch these back and forth between miles and kilometers. It was always there in the past, and I just haven't maintained that, but it should be easy to re-implement. So here are some. One thing I was going to point out, if you look at, for example, This one is one I just added to the database, and I added it for a specific reason, which is that, so in addition to the location, so Rhode Island, Michigan, Belgium, like I've got states and countries in there as locations, which help to identify where the hills are, but are also useful for these things. I started to add locations, start locations for these rides, in part because what we're getting to next, the next feature I'm going to talk about really relies on these start locations. But I also decided to integrate them with the rides because, of course, the rides also have start locations. And that's when it occurred to me that I could add some advertising to sort of add advertising space for a place that would serve as a start location. So in this case, this one is starting at 7 Stars Rumford. I added this little iframe here that loads the 7 Stars webpage. If 7 Stars felt like it, they could send me a different bit of HTML here to load, and then of course it would be trackable, and they can find out who's coming from my website and actually have some good advertising stats from this. But that's the idea here, is that the reason I have this advertising here is that it's actually valuable information to know, okay, this ride is starting at a coffee shop and a bakery. Let's see what's there, and you would find that, you know, hey, this is actually a really nice bakery, and you know, maybe I'll go early and have a cup of coffee, right? That's what it's providing nice information for the riders, and also, of course, advertising information for the advertiser. Hopefully 7 Stars likes this and will start paying me, but you never know. Okay, so and so there's the loop. So this is a loop I've done several times. It goes out to Somerset and back, and there aren't a whole lot of hills on this loop. Mostly going east in Rhode Island does not get you too many hills. So that's the ride page. And so, yeah, there's lots of different rides here. I mean, not as many as I might like. If I start getting more, I've got to start dealing with sorting them, because right now they all fit on one page. Once I get beyond the page, I've got to find ways of filtering it and figure out a nice way of presenting that, but that will all come in time. Okay, so now onto hopefully you're still here, because this is the part that I was really excited about. The new feature that I've added, or that I've just about finished coding, but it's not quite ready yet, is this one. Okay, no, so right, okay, there we go. Okay, there's the Patreon. Okay, so this one is the Rideboard page. So this is a new Rideboard. There's going to be some information explaining what to do here and what this is all about. But for now, you've got 2 buttons, 2 options, which is, let's say you want to go for a ride. You want to go for a ride with people. Obviously, you can't do that right now because of coronavirus, but eventually we will all be riding together again, hopefully. And in that case, this will hopefully be a nice tool. Why did I make this? It is, if you have ever had to or tried to announce rides and organize these kinds of big rides, you've probably already figured out that this is a problem. But if not, you know, I can sort of walk through what happens in Providence. Is that, let's say I decide that I want to go for a ride and I want to invite friends. If I were still on Facebook, which I'm not, I would have to post on, I think, 3 or 4 different groups on Facebook to get everybody, to capture all of the possible people who might be attending. Then there are the people who are not on Facebook, like me. You have to send to a different email group and so on. Like, there's no central way of organizing this. So I thought, why not have a central spot where you can announce a ride, get people to attend, and you can see who is signed up. And I want this to be as unintrusive as possible. I don't want to collect email addresses. I do have to collect them for the workings of the ride, but beyond the ride, I have no interest in having anybody's email addresses or connecting or collecting email lists. So all of that shows up in the database for a while, but as soon as the ride is over, it's wiped. So that's, you know, hopefully to set people's minds at ease about putting information into this. I'm not collecting anything. But so, you know, you have a ride. So if you want to find a ride, you would click here, and there are 2 in the database. These are not real rides, don't actually show up to these. But so July 23rd at 5:50 is a Mark Nicholson snack down. and then a July 31st is a 3-state loop. I'll get to this one in a second, these past rides. But for now, so let's say you wanted to go for this ride. You look, okay, this sounds good. You click on it, and it tells you when it's departing. You've got a little countdown here that I need to probably do a little bit more in terms of formatting. But Mark Nicholson SmackDown departs July 23rd, at 1750, leaving from De Pasquale Square. If you don't know where that is, then you can click on this link and you have the Google map and so on. So this is back to the page. Sorry about having to edit that again. So yeah, so it gives a description of what the ride is about, why you're doing it. You know, you might say, hey, show up 30 minutes early and have a coffee if you want. You know, you can put anything you want into that description. And then there's some additional information here. If you public, meaning that anybody can find this ride. If you had selected private when you made the ride, we'll go through the ride creation process in a second. But if you selected public, then this will show up in those searches. If you don't, it won't show up in the searches, and the only way to get people to join is to send them the link to the ride. And then you can set a minimum number of riders, meaning that the assumption is if you don't make the minimum, that the ride is not going to happen. I haven't quite determined how many kinds of reminder emails and things like that I'm going to be sending out. My guess is that I would have it set so that once you hit the minimum, everybody on the ride gets an email that says, hey, the ride's on, so show up and all is good. And maximum, it's default to 999. I'm assuming nobody's going to be riding with more than that. You could potentially put in more than that if you really wanted. Although if you had 99, if you had that many people showing up, you're going to break the website design if you have that many riders anyway. But yeah, and so you can determine the average miles per hour. There are a few different options for whether rides are no drop, and so on. And then this is a road ride. You can select road, mountain, or gravel. Those seem like the only ones that were terribly important. And yeah, so here's the ride. If I decided, you can see who's signed up over here in the side cards. You have me, and then you have, I signed up again with something else. I'm just going to sign up as, let's do Brent number 3. So, and let's see, I should pick an email. So I can't pick one of the ones I already did. I'll pick this one. And this is a rather interesting feature, which is that if I click willing to lead, all that means is that should the person who created this, in this case me, decide that they can't go on the ride, they can delete themselves, and if there is somebody who has marked themselves as willing to lead, they will be promoted to ride leader. They'll receive all of the administrator emails and information so that they can log in and remove riders or send updates or change the time. All of the features that are available when you, if you're the ride creator, become available to you instead. So I'm going to go ahead and join this. It thinks I'm a robot. I wonder why it did that. Okay, so I did just recently install reCAPTCHA. So either something about the way that I interacted just now, or there's some other problem with the way I set this up. It might not like me right now, so I'll have to figure that out. But let me try that one more time. Okay, so it was, I think it was just because I sat there for too long before deciding to put it in, so that triggered some kind of a reCAPTCHA problem. But yeah, so there's that. I can also, let's say I don't know if this is a good ride for me, I can send a message to the leader. All of the messaging is handled by the website, so you're not sending, if you send a message, they don't get your email address, and when the ride creator responds, they also don't get the email. I think it's a fairly nice and ingenious system. I'm rather proud of how it works. So, but that's how that handles it. Maybe if there's time, I will show you a little bit of that, but not here. yeah, so that's how that works, and I think everything else is self-explanatory. Obviously, you have the ride with GPS thing here, so if you want to go and download the route, it's available. You can use all of that. The features that come with Ride with GPS are then available to you because you can just go to the website, go to that site, and download the GPX file and so on. And I think that's all for that. So now let me walk through before I go on. So one thing, when you finish the ride, once it's happened, again, the data gets wiped from the database unless you decide to save it. And if you save it, it still wipes all of the contact details. It just saves it as an archived ride. So in this case, I think it's mostly going to be useful for me to keep a record of some rides that I'm proud of or particularly enjoyed. So this is a ride I did on May 4th, 2019. I put this in retroactively. But so the ride was in Belgium through Flanders Fields. And so when I click on this, and after I finished, I was able to rate it. So I gave this 5 stars for both because it was one of my favorite rides I've ever done. And I wrote a nice little explanation of the ride, talked about what I did, getting a beer from Westvleteren, and so on. And so that's all included there. The original ride description is down here. This looks a little bit silly because of this, I'm in full screen mode, so this Instagram integration is rather large, but it allows you to put in an Instagram link and then have, so you can look through the pictures that I took that day. So here's a picture of the Kemmelberg, famous cobbled climb. Yeah, and yeah, so that's just a way of archiving some of these rides. The other nice thing here is that then I can also, if I want to ride it again, I can just click this and have all of the details pre-filled in to do this ride again. But there are other ways to do that as well. So let me just go back now. Okay, so now if I went back to this original page and instead of finding a ride, I decided, there aren't any rides I want to do, but I want to post one. So to post a ride, you have a nice large form with lots of information to fill out. I tried to keep it pared down as much as possible, but all of this seemed really important to have all of this stuff. So you have to pick a name for the ride. So Free State Loop, for example, ride leader, you can put your name, and Rhode Island. So, and you do have to select a location, which means that if you're not, if there is not a, if this has not been rolled out for your particular location, you kind of have to, it's got to be set up. So at the moment, that means that this will only be available in Rhode Island, Michigan, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Belgium, places where I have start locations defined. You don't necessarily have to have a start location, but you do have to have a general location. So within Rhode Island, once I select Rhode Island, this will auto select the start locations that are in Rhode Island. So these are the ones that I've put in so far. 7 stars is the only one with advertising data because I'm just testing that out. But there are rides that start from these places, or they're places that I thought were decent starting spots. So if I select Michigan, you'll see there's Elmwood Township Park in Traverse City or Wheeler Park, because if you look at the rides page, there are rides in Michigan that start from those 2 locations. Wheeler Park is in Ann Arbor, and this is near Traverse City. Let's say you're in Michigan and you want to post a ride, and you want to start somewhere else. You don't have to use one of these. So you can leave this blank and then put in an alternate start. So generally, you're going to want to have something here and nothing here. So, for example, you could write my house. It's really, this could be anything. And assuming everybody knows where your house is, that's fine, right? If you, it's not entirely necessary that you have all that information. And distance, you don't necessarily need to have a really precise distance, just enough that people know what they're getting into, I think is the main thing. So is it 20 miles? Is it 40 miles? Is it 500 miles, right? You want to sort of have a general idea. Here is where you would put in a ride with GPS route. you don't have to have a link there. Again, if the description says, we're just going to be ambling around and go wherever we feel like, that's of course a perfectly acceptable kind of bike ride. So in that case, you would just want to leave this blank. You would then not have the options of downloading GPX and so on, but obviously that's a different kind of ride. Then you do have to have a date and the time. So you select your date and then you select your time, 4 o'clock. So let's do 7, no, don't want something in the past. Okay, and so again, if you want it private, you have to click it. The mileages I set up, 10 to 15, you can see that 25 plus seemed like the maximum. Maybe people, if that doesn't work, I'm open to input on whether I've got the right options dialed in here. So we have no drop. Drop ride means it's a fast ride and you're going to get dropped on the sprints and people aren't waiting for anybody is the difference. No drop means you wait for everybody. Everybody comes home. Everybody who goes out together comes home together. Self-sufficient is a kind of hybrid between those, at least in my estimation. Like, you're not going to try to drop people and you'll wait up within reason, but if somebody gets really held up or is just not strong enough to stay on the ride, then they might have to find their own way home. And then a death march is, of course, the kind of thing where either you're going to come home alone one way or another. Either you're going to be the person in front and you've dropped everybody, or at some point you get dropped. That's kind of the idea of a death march ride. And then road, gravel, mountain, min and max riders, I've already talked about that. And then you would add a description here. And then you put in your email address and a phone number you don't need to put in. And at the moment, the phone number doesn't do anything. I would love to have SMS integration so you could get text notifications for some of these things. At the moment, that's a little bit harder, and it probably would have to wait until this is something that I'm actually getting paid for before it's something I can sort of roll out that kind of SMS integration for. But I'm looking into it and trying to figure that out. But before I go any further, the other nice thing is that, so from the rides page, which I think I still maybe have up, so it's Control Tab, right? Okay, so let's see, where's the ride? So if I'm at the rides page, at some point, and it's already done, I just need to be ready to turn on the Rideboard page, and then I can add this integration. But if I click on, say, this ride, ideally, you would have somewhere over here, you would have a link that says, let's do this ride, right? So you're looking at this ride, you see, okay, this looks like a nice route. Maybe somebody is already doing it. It would show up over here and say, hey, this ride is going tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Do you want to join? So you would click that and be brought to the Rideboard page for that thing. Or you would also have the option of creating a new ride with this as your route. So, and if you did that, this is what the page would look like. So you would click it and you would show up here. You would have filled in already for you would be the ride name, location, start location, approximate distance, route. All you really have to fill in then is the date and time, decide if you want it to be private, and decide about these things. But if that works for you, then that's fine. Add your email and so on. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Brent Wetters, start location, Somerset. Why did I screwed that up. So, because of the autofill thing. So it should be 7 stars Rumford. You can change that, even although there'd be no real good reason to change it. If you have a route that is starting in a specific spot, you can leave alternate start blank, 50 miles. So let's say we're going to do this tomorrow at 10 a.m. Private, no, I'm not going to do this private. Let's make this a really fast ride, but no drop. Road, minimum, let's just say 4. And here you can see this is the description is imported from the ride page, which you can leave as is, or you might also say add something else. sell the ride, say, hey, my friend is in time, we're going to do this ride. You could say anything you want here. And here we go. So, okay, so, yeah, I can leave that. Oh, something big. Okay, so I think, again, because I'm talking while I'm doing this, it's making, and because this has been sitting here for a very long time as well, let's see, if I just reload the page, it should be fine, and refill this in. 7 stars. And leave that. Okay, that can all stay. I'm going to use my other email address. Okay, and now it should work. And so then you get a preview thing. You get to check it before you do it. You can go back and you can either hit confirm or edit. I keep going back and forth whether the confirm should be on the left or the right. So if you have an input, let me know. I'm open to votes there. I can't decide which one seems more intuitive. So if I click edit, I'll be brought back to the last page and I can change something. I'm just going to go ahead and hit confirm. And then you get this confirmation page. And then you also get an email with that has these 2 links. You actually get 2 emails. One email is something you can send to everybody that only has this shareable link. And this is the link that anybody can go to. And they will, so anybody can go to this link and get the, sign up and send a message to the leader and so on. I'm not going to click on that because you've already seen that page. And then you get a second email that has that link plus this other link, which is the administrator link, which is the link that if you're the ride leader, you need this one to be able to do anything with the ride. So to remove people or to change the time and so on. So if I click on this admin link, you see I've changed the background just to make it a little bit clear that you're in a different interface. So it tells you some information, and one thing it tells you is this would be for everybody as well. It says the ride has not reached the minimum number of riders, so we have 2 set here. It's not up to 2. You also see now I have an X here. If I try to click this now, it's going to tell me that I can't do that because I can't remove myself from the ride because there's nobody willing to lead the ride. I could go down here and delete the ride. If I want to delete it, you click the confirm, and then ideally you would also tell people, okay, I'm not doing this ride, we're canceling it, right? It's canceled, or the weather is going to be horrible, so we're not doing it, right? Those are reasons why you might want to cancel a ride. You would put in here, and then send that. The riders get an email saying, okay, it's ride is off, everything gets deleted from the database and it's gone. You might want to say something like, hey, bring water bottles, bring a tube, all the things you might want to remind people about. You could say, send a message, everybody gets a message with that information. You are allowed to change the date and time. If you don't put in a reason, it will just say no reason given, but the ride time has changed from 10 to 10:50, for example. And ride date change. And so now, if you can see here, it says we're leaving at 10:50 instead. Yeah, so that's essentially the functionality here. And again, I think this is something that is needed. I think this is something that will hopefully be used. I'm hoping people use this and makes it for a nice way to announce rides, something that is a little more easy to handle than the current methods, but also still integrates with those existing methods. So you can still post this ride to Facebook. You can still post this ride to any of the groups you want on Facebook, but it's no longer it's a central spot where you start and then send out. You don't have to check and see, okay, who responded to that post saying they're coming. If anybody wants to join, they join here, and then you've got a collection of riders. You can see who's showing up. So maybe there's somebody you don't want to ride with, and you see them on the list, so you can sit that one out, right? There are options for making this people able to join in a much more nice way than previous methods, where you never quite know who's going to show up, and so on. So hopefully this will serve to fill a need for the cycling community. That's my hope, yeah. So I hope this is something that people are as excited about as I am. I think it's going to be a really nice thing if we ever start riding outside as a group again. So that's the overview of the new Brentacol site. And again, this Rideboard thing, as you can see, it's almost all set up. It is sending out emails when I did all of those things. There are a few things that are not finished. The emails themselves are a little bit bare bones and missing information they need, but it's all mostly there. So we're really almost ready to turn this on and let people start playing around with it and hopefully start using it. So thanks, everybody.